going to take a look at an unusual use of Google Slides. Because Slides is really well built in terms of how you can layer graphics and shapes and colored elements, it actually makes a really good tool for creating newsletters or posters or flyers. And you wouldn't normally think of that if you think of Slides as a slideshow presentation program. But here's some cool things we can do. So here's an example of something I created, and this is a slide just like you'd see in a regular slideshow. The main differences here are it's been changed to a custom size, so it's 8.5 by 11 like a regular sheet of paper, and that means that I can just print this and it's a perfectly sized handout. It also makes use of shapes, which are these colored boxes here, and those are text boxes as well, so you can type right on top of those. There's a couple other elements here that make this really useful. One is that graphics can be dragged around and placed on top of other graphics. And that is something that currently isn't possible in Google Docs. And so that makes Slides a much better tool for organizing things that need to have a visual element like a newsletter or a flyer. So let's talk about how we can set this up. In Google Drive, we're going to go to the New button and go to Google Slides. And by default, Google Slides comes up with its regular normal slide shape. And so the first thing we're going to do is go to the File menu and go to Page Setup. And now the options here are widescreen and a couple different aspect ratios for that, and then a standard 4:3. But we're going to choose Custom, and we're going to type in 8.5 by 11, and that is in inches. There's other options here, but we're going to use inches, and click OK. And the document gets resized to a normal sheet of paper size. I'm going to click on the border of this text box here and just delete these. And now I've got a blank page and I can start designing this however I want to. So when you have a slideshow that's blank and you want to add text to it, one way is to use the text box tool. So I'm going to click right here, and then I can either just click or I can draw a box around where I want to type. And so right up here I might put in my title, and you can resize the text. One nice feature of using Slides is that as you drag elements around, you get these little guides that show up and show you that you're centered or lined up with other elements. And so another thing that's a quick tip here while you're working is if you hold down the Option key on a Mac and click and drag, it drags out a copy. And so that's just a quick way to change things up a little bit. So I'll put in the date here. And then maybe this one is a little bit smaller. Also on text boxes, when you click on this little circle at the top, you can rotate things. So just be aware that's what that is for. Okay, let's talk about how to use shapes in Google Slides. So up here there's a Shapes menu, and I pull this down, and there's lots of different shapes you can choose from. And I'm going to just go up here to the top level and I'll grab one of these corner cutout rectangles. And I'm just going to draw the box right here. And maybe this is like a section that you'd like to use for your newsletter. Now what's cool is this is actually a text box, so I can double click and type right inside of it. I'm going to wait though to do that. I'm going to set up another thing first. One of the advantages of using Google Slides is that you can layer graphics on top of each other. So I'm going to take this shape that I've drawn, and I'm going to go to the Edit menu, and I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it. And so now you can see that I've got two of them. Well, I'm going to take this new one here, and I'm going to go up to the Paint bucket, and I'm going to make it a dark gray. Okay? And then I'm going to right click on this, or actually you can go to the Arrange menu, and you can go to Order and Send Backward. I can also do that with a right click or a control click. I can go to Order and Send Backward, and it drops behind, and now it looks like it's kind of a drop shadow. And so I can take that and I can go move it up and over, move it a little closer, and that looks pretty nice. If I want to, I can hold down Shift and use the arrow keys to make like just small adjustments and make a really small drop shadow if you like that better. Okay, so I'm going to leave that like that, and then I'm going to start typing. So I'm going to double click inside, and the text by default starts in the middle, and I'd like it to be at the top. So I'm going to go up here to the Alignment menu, And underneath the normal left, center, right, justified, you've got where the text shows up in the text box, and it's like top, middle, or bottom. So I'm going to click top, and the cursor jumps up there, and I'll say Article 1, and then some text, and just copy it from there. I'll take the title here and I'll make it bold. I'll make it a little bit bigger. And now I've got kind of a template that I can work with. I could change the color of this front here. So maybe we'll make this like a light blue. Okay, I'm just going to position this where I'd like to see it. And now I'm going to select and make sure I select the front one and the drop shadow one. So I'm just going to draw a box that covers both of those. And I'm going to hold down the Option key and drag out another one. And now I've got a duplicate of my template there. So you can design the box however you want it to be, and then you can quickly drag out a bunch of copies. And then I can change the color on this one, make this yellow, or however you want to do that. Another thing you can do, notice that the angled edge here kind of works well on the right side, but maybe I want this flipped. I'm just going to select both of those. I'm going to go to Arrange and Rotate, and then I'm going to say Flip Horizontally. And it flips it that way. Now, if you're picky, you'll notice that the drop shadow is kind of on the wrong side. If your light's coming from the top left corner, to make a shadow like this, you'd want to move this drop shadow over like that. Okay, I'm going to add a third box down in the bottom here, and so we'll go to Shapes, and this time I will choose a rounded rectangle. And I'll start right here, and I'll drag it across like that. And notice you get these little guides, again, not only for the centering, but also to show you where it lines up with other elements on the page. So it's really handy to keep things lined up. It even shows you if your spacing is about the same. So you can see here that this text box, if I let go right now, would be the same height as the title and subtitle up there. So sometimes that's helpful. So I'm going to line it up right there. And just like before, I'm going to copy this and then paste it, and I will go to the Arrange, Order, Send to Back, or Send Backward, and I'll make that one a dark gray as a drop shadow and move that a little closer. Okay. Now let's say I want to add an image here, and so I insert an image, and we'll go to Search, and I'll type in snowman, and here's a good snowman to use. So I'll select that one. It's going to show up really large, and so I'm going to shrink that down. Okay, and I'm just going to copy and paste the text from right here, and we'll call this Article 3. And one thing I want to point out, though, is that if I paste in a bunch of text here, and you can see that it moves actually behind the snowman, and I don't want that to happen. And if I try to adjust the text box, well, the whole shape comes with it. So in some cases, if you have an image over here that you don't want to run underneath, what you can do is, instead of using the text box there, you can actually drag a new text box right here. And you can put the border of it right there, and then your text doesn't run past the border there. So that's and it'll wrap however you stretch that out, and so you can line that up so it matches. Okay, so that way you can avoid having text run behind or on top of a graphic. You can just put the edge right there. Okay, so those are kind of the basic tools. Beyond that, there's, you can add images anywhere. So if you look at my example from before, you can see that I added some Christmas tree pictures up here at the top. You can obviously format your text, and you can, in this case, I highlighted half the text and set the color to green and the other half to red. So you can do all those kind of font changes and things like that. There's also some other shapes that you can add, like I've got these arrows down here. You'll find those up here in the line tool, and so you can choose arrow or any of these other options here. And Scribble is just a freehand if you wanted to kind of hand draw some shapes there, but use the arrow tool, and then you can just kind of draw an arrow out, and you can hold down the Shift key and make straight lines. And it looks really small right there, but you can go to the line weight and make it much bigger. You can also, with these two buttons, choose what's on either end. And so at the start, you can actually have another arrow. So you got two arrows going both ways. Or you can put a circle or any of these shapes on there. Okay, so that is how to create custom newsletters and flyers and posters in Google Slides. Again, you just want to make a custom size, 8.5 by 11, and then you've got all the arrangement options you could want. You can add colors and images and move stuff all around, and it's easy. It's kind of fun. It's something that students can pick up real quick, and so hopefully you find that useful.